Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ignorant Intellectual on Media. Today, I thought we'd do a mixed haul. I haven't done one of these in a while because I haven't really bought much lately. I've been spending my time cleaning up my basement or my den for to make it more livable, more enjoyable to be inside. It was filled up with books and videos and everything else all over the place because I buy and sell books and videos and video games and things like that in order to finance my collecting of books and media and things like that, right? So I decided I wanted to clean up the basement to make it look livable so I could actually spend a bit more time down here. um, and the catalyst for it was I moved the TV that I had down here, which was a smart TV. I have three TVs in my house, three large screen TVs. Two of them are smart TVs, but the one TV that wasn't a smart TV was up in my bedroom, and I wanted to watch the Blue Jays games. And since it wasn't a smart TV, um, it didn't have Amazon Prime on it. Through Amazon Prime in Canada, you can get the sports networks. So the Toronto Blue Jays is played on the sports network, not TSN, but the other one. Anyway, so you can get a subscription for it for $20 a month. So I figured I'd get a subscription to it and just watch the games through uh, Prime, and but my TV up in the bedroom where I usually watch stuff in the evening because I'm upstairs putting my son to bed and then just watching TV until I fall asleep. Um, it didn't have any. It's not a smart TV, so I didn't have. I used to have a computer hooked up to it, and then I would access the internet through the computer and use the TV as a monitor. But all my PCs kind of died over the last couple of years. So, and I didn't replace them because mostly the smart TVs had all the different places that I wanted to go on, and they had access to the internet as well, right? So, anyway, but the one in the bedroom didn't. So I moved that one down into the basement and moved the one that I had in the basement up into the bedroom because it had Netflix and YouTube and Prime Video and other um, uh, you know access to the internet through it, right? So now I could watch the Blue Jays games up in the bedroom because most of the games are on around 7 o'clock at night, and I'm usually upstairs by then. So that's where I watch them. So then I brought that TV down here, and then realized that. So I hooked up my Blu-ray player to it, and I could watch Blu-ray movies of all the Blu-rays that I have here. Um, but I had no access to the internet. Um, So I said, what the hell? I'll just buy a computer. And now they have these mini PCs. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're like the size of the palm of your hand. All right. And um, maybe I'll show one up here, but you probably know. But a lot of people don't buy PCs anymore because, they're either on their phones, or if they are on their TV, it's a smart TV and they don't really need a PC anymore. Maybe they'll have a laptop, but that's about it, right? But I like having a PC. I like having a monitor like the size of my TV as a monitor and sit on the couch and not be in front of a laptop if I don't have to be, right? Um, and you have access to the internet on a big screen, right? So anyway, so that's all you do. You get a PC, and then you get basically I got like a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and then I just sit on my couch, right? So anyway, so I cleaned up the whole basement. It looks really good now. I bought some IKEA shelves to place all the stuff that I had in boxes into the IKEA shelves. The Calyx ones that you get those box inserts that you put them in because they're all rectangular. You can get them 3x3 or 4x3 or 4x4 or 5x5, right? Or 1x4, right? And each one of those boxes, each one of those sections are square, and you can buy a box of, or a drawer or a door for them from IKEA. They're very versatile, right? So I bought one of those, and I put all my CDs took all my CDs that were in boxes in the basement, and I put them all into Calyx shelves, and now they're put away. Now it looks really nice in the basement. Everything's set up really well, but I ended up spending like $900 on a PC, a mini PC for my TV because I didn't have a smart TV. So now I can access, the internet and other things down here. And I also brought all the stuff that I had in my living room, all my, my server with all the hard drives that I have on it and everything. I brought it all down here and attached everything down here. So I'm all hooked up down here and everything looks nice. But I spent I spent pretty much all my savings that I had, you know, when I buy and sell books and other things. Um, if I don't buy something, then I'll put it in the savings or whatever. Spent that, and plus I owe the savings a bit of money as well. So from doing all this, so I haven't been really going around collecting stuff for my collections because I haven't really had the money for it. But um, the tail end of before doing that, I had a few items, and then afterwards going to the thrift stores because I still go to if I sell something, I will go to the thrift stores to pick up some more stuff because that's if I find something for $2 that I can sell for $6, well, that'll give me $4 to buy something else. And anyways, it builds up, and that's how you build up your savings, right? So I did pick up some stuff, but mostly it's for resale. But the stuff just before I did all this cleanup, I do still have some movies that I bought and everything that are really nice, and I will add those to my collection as well. But anyways, I thought I'd go through it. So we got some video games, we got some books, and we got some DVD, Blu-rays, and 4Ks. I'm not. Do I have a 4K in here? No. Anyways, we'll see as we go along. All right. So first, I thought we'd do the video games, and basically, uh, I'm not an expert in the video game market, but I do know a few items that always sell in the video game market, even older copies of them. And one of them is the PlayStation's Grand Theft Auto. So I have Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5 that I found um, at a thrift store, both in really nice condition, and both for the PS3. All right, so um, I picked them up for I think it was like $4.99 each, and probably will be able to turn them over and sell them for maybe $15 to $20 each, right? So that'll give me some extra money uh, to pay back my savings. All right. If you have not played this franchise, then you've probably been, under a rock somewhere or something. I'm not a personal fan of this, Rockstar game. It's a little bit too violent for my taste. I don't really play video games to, like first-person shooter games or these type of games where you imagine you're a criminal and you're going around and stuff, or you imagine you're in the military and I prefer like trivia games or like chess or checkers or things like that. But of course I'm older, so that's probably why. Um, and if I do play video games, it's mostly I like sports games, playing like Madden football or MLB baseball games. Anyway, so I never really got into the first person shooters or running around. I never liked Mario, even back in the '80s. Was not a big fan of Mario. I like the I liked a few like I don't know like Mappy, but anyways, I'm digressing. You remember Mappy? Remember playing Mappy if you're my age? Man, I thought that game was quite fun. Anyways, all right. So next up, we'll do some books. All right. So being Zen. All right. This is a Ezra Beta. Basically, he's a Zen Buddhist, and he has a lot of wisdom, and he writes. And he's out of San Diego. There's a really big Zen Buddhist community in San Diego in the United States, and he's one of the main guys there. And he wrote this book basically bringing meditation, Zen Buddhist meditation, into your life to make your life happier. Uh, Anything Zen Buddhist is really easy to resell, so I picked that one up. All right. Here's a Penguin Classic, the newest version of them. They're nice editions. Um, this one is St. Joan by Bernard Shaw. It's one of his most famous plays. It's basically a retelling of the Joan of Arc story, but with more flattering, a more flattering depiction of Joan of Arc because Bernard Shaw is, I don't know if he was a feminist at heart, but he was like, if he wasn't, he was like drawing the line there pretty close on one side or the other. But he really, really thought that Joan of Arc in history had a shellacking over. and he wanted to portray her the way that he thought she was, and so he ended up doing a play about it, right? All right, and what do we got? No Fear Shakespeare, Hamlet, the King of Denmark, whose father, whose uncle kills his father in order to take over the throne, and then goes from there. Probably this one, or maybe Julius Caesar, is probably his greatest tragedy. Shakespeare, I mean. And these books are great. They're cheap. This one is they sell for like $7.50 to $10 each. All right, and basically they call it No Fear Shakespeare because some people are afraid of reading Shakespeare because of the the language in it's older English, right? And sometimes it's hard to understand it. So what this does is puts the play on one side and puts a modern translation on the other side and explains it really well. So and it's like between $5 and $10 each. So these sell really well. Um, so whenever I see one, I always pick it up. All right. If you haven't read Shakespeare, you're missing out on the greatest English language writer in history, right? What else do we have here? All right, we have. Okay, here's a series of books that I collect. This is the Everyman Library, the more modern version of it that started in like 1991. I think they're up to about 450 volumes in the library. This one is numbered. What number is this one? This one is number 212 in the library. I didn't have it, so my local bookstore had it, so I picked it up from them. Now look, the person did not protect it, right? So it looks like they weren't doing a great job. So I'll put it in Mylar to protect it. But if you notice here, see how this is coming apart. Anyways, this is Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. It's her only novel. She wrote it, got published, and then basically a month later she ends up killing herself. And basically, it's one of the most depressing novels that if you've ever read. The main character in it, has I don't know if she had clinical depression, but she kind of mirrors a lot of Sylvia Plath's life, so it's almost autobiographical in a way. Um, but basically, this is a period of time. It seems like a lot of fiction from women during this period of time. What was this in the 30s and 40s? I can't remember when this was published. But just looking, see if I can quickly see 1971. 1971. So you had the civil rights movement and women's rights movement and that, and you're having a flowering of women moving out of the home and into the workforce, going into different artistic areas and being blocked a lot of the time. And um, that kind of restriction can lead to depression, if you know what I mean. So she takes on kind of that subject in a way in this book, The Bell Jar. If you like depressing literature, you can't do anything better than Sylvia Plath. All right. So this is, like I said, part of the Everyman Library. So I'll add that to the collection. What else do we have here? We have all right. We have Swan's Way, which is part of the modern libraries, the original collection of books. There's like just over 800 in that collection. They're all numbered between 1 and under 500. I don't think there's a volume that's above 500 because when one goes out of print and it didn't sell well, they'll replace that number with another book that they'll try to sell, right? So you have doubles of the same number, right? So, but I think there's just over 800 volumes in this collection. This one is Swan's Way by Proust. Proust wrote that. What was it called? That series of 7 books in the Something of Time. I think it was originally Remembrance of Things Past when it was first published in English, but then it became something with time, and I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, so this is the book 1 of the 7. It's the first novel. Well, it's actually one huge 7-volume novel, but you can read this and not read the others. I did not tackle those, so I haven't read Swan's Way. Maybe you have. Maybe you had the mental discipline to read 7 of Proust's books all in a row. I'm not sure, but one problem with that is trying to find them in the first place, right? You can find individual volumes, but trying to find all 7 at once is a difficult. I know the Modern Library, the, when this came out in '91, they also put out these ones. These are the originals, but then they put out a modern version of the Modern Library that started in the '90s as well as. And I know they have like a 6 or 7 volume set of those 7 novels in that library, but extremely hard to find unless you want to spend a good amount of money. Let's put it that way. All right, next up is paperback of two of H.G. Wells' greatest books, The Time Machine and The War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds is basically London gets invaded by aliens, all right? And basically we're fighting off these aliens, but it doesn't look like we're going to win. And then something happens. I won't tell you. You probably already know, but if you don't, I don't want to ruin the book for you. Um, Something happens that saves humanity's ass. Let's put it that way. And The Time Machine is another one where this Englishman in London uh, invents a time machine and hurtles himself into the future where humanity has been split into two different varieties, ones that live above ground and then ones that live below ground. And the ones that live below ground are called, I can't remember the name of them, what they're called, but they prey on the ones that live above ground. All right. And, the ones that live above ground are innocent, and the ones that live below ground are like attacking carnivore kind of evil guys, right? Anyways, it's quite a fun story if you haven't read that story on how H.G. Wells sees the future, right? All right, so that's H.G. Wells. Here's another paperback, Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. This is basically part of the Penguin library where they take on, I think right now there's 20 of them on the back of this book of important books through history that have changed people's thought process, right? And this is one of them. Basically, this is Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. What she means by that is if a woman is to be successful, she needs a room of her one's own where there's not males pushing her around figuratively, mentally, or sexually, and she needs independent wealth or money, earning her own money in order for her to become the artist or whatever job she ends up deciding that she wants to do, right? Um, Without interference. That's basically what this book is about: is how women are stunted because of a male-dominated society. And it's one of the ones that it's I don't know if it's a basic tenet of feminism, but it's in there. Let's put it that way. All right, so that's A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. Next up is Margaret Atwood's greatest novel, is, in my opinion, anyways, is The Handmaid's Tale. This one, or The Edible Woman, is another one that's really really good. But this basically is Atwood's idea of what the future may look like if you would take the ability to give birth away from women, where you only had a very select few women who are able to get pregnant and deliver babies, and what society would look like um, if that happened. And basically, it's rich people ending up, almost enslaving poor people who have the ability to give birth and use them as their surrogates, right? So it's quite an impressive novel if you haven't read it. And another one in the same genre, my favorite in the whole genre of dystopian literature, which *Handmaid's Tale* is one, and it's up there with this one in 1984 and some others. *We* is another one. *We*. *The Brave New World* I think is probably the greatest out of all of them by Huxley. Basically, but during the time of the Nazis and before, there was a movement in science called eugenics, where they thought that if you could breed humans, like a superior form of human would result, right? So you take the best genetically genetic people and you breed them together to create like a superhuman race. The Nazis were great into that at one time. They had factories for it and everything. Anyways, Huxley knew all about this and decided to tell of a future city or a future society where they take that to heart and what that society looks like. And basically, people aren't, you know, people are basically grown, right? They're manufactured to fill certain roles in society, right? And they're supposed to be happy in those roles because, if you're doing a more physical labor job, or they need somebody to do a physical labor job, they create a human being that maybe of low intelligence but has physical means, right, and that kind of thing. Or if you need a scientist or somebody in that field, then you create a smarter person, that kind of. Anyways, there's like these different levels, all with Greek letters, um, the epsilons and anyway, so I can't remember the names of them all, but anyways, there's different levels, and you have this savage that ends up who lives outside of this society um, structure, the city or whatever, and he ends up infiltrating, going in to look for his mother, um, and he ends up coming blunt force straight into how this society behaves, and he's like flabbergasted by it. He represents basically you or me in the world reading the book, right? Anyways, it's an extremely good book. If you have not read it, you should read it. All right. Next up is Down and Out in Paris and London by George Orwell, the man who wrote 1984, which is another great in the dystopian. This one is basically his account of when he moved to Paris, because he thought that's the center of culture in Europe was in Paris. So he moved there and realized they didn't have enough money to live there, and he ended up becoming destitute. And so he ended up, becoming a dishwasher and doing all these odd jobs just to survive. And he ends up writing a book about, the lower class, or the poor, and why they behave in certain ways, and how you judging them for behaving in that way might be a little bit premature if you've never been poor yourself, right? So it's basically it's a pretty good read, but it's basically kind of like a memoir of his time in London and Paris without any money, right? So, and next up is Broadviews. I really like these texts, Broadview editions, literary editions. This one is Jane Eyre, um, probably what Charlotte Bronte's greatest novel. But basically, what they do with it is they take the novel and they give you the novel, and then they give you like half the book on, like academic review and criticism, and its place in the world, and its place in society, its place in history, and all that. And it goes through. It's like a really, really in-depth look at a novel. These Broadview uh, texts actually they're made in Canada as well. I think the Broadview is a Canadian press, right? Anyway, so they take on Jane Eyre, and what they do is with the more popular ones. At least this is what I'm thinking they're doing. All right, because it would make sense, because it's what, let's say, if we go into film, it's what the Criterion Collection does, right? Every once in a while, you'll see a really popular selection to be put in the Criterion Collection. You go, does that really fit? Because you know, Criterion Collections are, all these historically important films that are underappreciated or not paid attention to, and so they bring them forth, and they restore them, and then they put them out in really nice editions. Well, that's what Broadview seems to be doing. They'll take a more like Jane Eyre there, which is a more popular book, and then what they'll do is they'll maybe finance other ones that aren't so popular. They have a bit of a concentration on like um, early works, 1700s, 1800s, things like that, from people that are outside the mainstream. Not the William Shakespeare's, but others that maybe you've never heard of, right? Because they've kind of fallen off the shelf over time, right? And then they reinvigorate them for academic use, right? So, anyways, if you ever come across the Broadviews, they're really good editions. Um, I think that's all the books. Did I do this one? No, I don't think it. The Dharmapada. Have you heard this? Well, this is basically all of Buddhist sayings. He goes through his life and he comes into a situation and he makes a saying for it. And basically, it's like to expand your mind. It's basically, Zen Buddhism. It's his all of his sayings and teachings are in the Dhammapada. Um, Very easy book to read. So, all right. So now let's do the movies. All right, we've done everything. Now we just have the movies left. So this is a quick video. All right. So I found this one, The Long Good Friday. I actually traded another um, Criterion DVD and a book to get this one, so I didn't actually pay anything for it. But it doesn't have a Blu-ray. Arrow put out a Blu-ray of this, all right, and a 4K of this. But if you're collecting the Criterion Collection, the only way you can get this movie or this number, which is number 26, is as a DVD. They didn't put out a Blu-ray. I think they probably lost the license to put this film out, and then Arrow picked it up, and Arrow put out the Blu-ray of it, and then Arrow put out the 4K version of it. And it's basically what's his name? Bob Hoskins. Bob Hoskins. He was really good in the film. Oh, what was that film? Based on the Canadian book. I can't remember. Anyways, I'll put it up here where he plays like a serial killer, where he goes around, pretending to save girls, but the reason why he's doing it is to put them out of their misery. Let's put it that way. Anyway, so The Sweet Hereafter, I think it was called. Yeah, The Sweet Hereafter. So this one, he plays a gangster, a Cockney gangster, who is trying to go legit as a real estate guy, and he invites in the American mafia to give him a hand, but um, then his properties start blowing up. So he's thinking maybe somebody in his own organization is trying to screw him over. So it all hell breaks loose as he goes finds this guy to kill him, right, and uh, stop him from ruining his ambitions, right. So Hoskins does a really good job at this. If you have not seen this, and like I said, this is out of print as well, right? So the only way that you're gonna I mean, there are a few in the thousand or so films that the Criterion Collection has that have fallen through the cracks. Who they've either lost the license for them, or just never bothered because they didn't sell all that well, or they did the DVD but they didn't. Uh, they just kind of left it at that. And what happened is all the DVDs were sold, and then they never really replaced it with a Blu-ray. You will have some, not a lot, but you do have some in the collection that are that way. And those are the ones sometimes you'll see on eBay for like 100 or 200, $300, $250, because the asshole that owns it knows um, that it's out of print, and the only way that you can get it if you're a collector of the Criterion Collection is to find it used, and he's going to make you pay through the teeth to get it, right. But I got lucky in this one because there's enough copies of them around, and I traded a different Criterion for it plus a book. So uh, I got it for a reasonable cost. And like I said, out of print. So the only way you're going to finish your Criterion Collection, having all the volumes in the Criterion Collection, is that you're going to have some DVDs in your collection if you really want to complete it. Or you just go collect the Blu-rays and 4Ks and that, and ignore the DVDs. But uh, you'll have to wait and hope that they get the licensing back to put it out on a Blu-ray, right? But the only way you're going to get this Criterion is on it in a DVD. All right, so that's Long Good Friday. Except as I found a Blu-ray edition of The Corpse Bride. I have this on DVD, but I didn't have it on Blu-ray, so I picked it up. I think I found it for like $4 or $5. So I will just replace one with the other. Basically, this is fun. It's like A Nightmare Before Christmas was popular, so Burton decided to do another film that kind of has the same type of animation, and it was quite popular and fun to watch as well. Um, so next up, let's do this one, Bloodbath. Basically, still new with its booklet. All right, so um, I have not watched this film, so I'm not sure exactly. The films of Roger Corman are often as well known for their behind-the-scenes stories as they are for the ones unfolding on screen. He famously made Little Shop of Horrors in just 2 days using sets left over from A Bucket of Blood, and shot The Terror over a long weekend because bad weather prevented him from playing tennis. But none of these tales are quite so complex or quite as extraordinary as the making of Bloodbath. All right, so this is basically a Corman film, Roger Corman film, although it wasn't directed by him, it was directed by Jack Hill. All right, so I got it for a reasonably low, and I like these box sets that Arrow puts out with the booklet and everything. It's really nice. It's like the competition to the Criterion Collection. So I collect Corman films, so that's why I picked that up. And then another gentleman had this, which is a I Spit on Your Grave box set, uh, put out by Ronin. All right, so basically, it has the original I Spit on Your Grave, and then the sequel, which is I Spit on Your Grave Deja Vu, and then it has Growing Up with I Spit on Your Grave, which is like a documentary, and then has a booklet. So it's really nice edition. There's the booklet. All right, and I Spit on Your Grave, Deja Vu. You were growing up with I Spit on Your Grave, and the original I Spit on Your Grave. Now, the original I Spit on Your Grave is a cult classic. It's basically a rape and revenge film, um, of a woman, a writer who goes into the countryside, rents a house in like a cabin in the woods to get away from everybody, um, so that she can write. And there's a small town area that's around, and um, this group of guys notice that she's in this house by herself and decides to take advantage and break in and gang assault her, right? So and then she decides that she ain't gonna take that crap, and she goes about slowly killing all of them throughout the movie, right? So um, it started, a whole series of exploitation films of this kind. It's named Rape and Revenge, but it was one of the first ones. And I saw it when I was younger, and I thought, yeah, go kill all those assholes. It was quite fun to watch. The first part was a bit difficult to get through. That the assault itself was difficult to get through, but her deciding to do something about it afterwards was not hard to watch at all. All right. So, anyways, I haven't watched the second film, so I'm gonna eventually watch that. And last but not least, I found this still new as well. That's the Phantasm collection. All five of the films, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Phantasm, Phantasm 2, Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead, Phantasm 4, Oblivion, and Phantasm Ravager. All right, so and it's all in a nice box set put out by Arrow with a huge amount of you have a bonus disc of a bunch of extra stuff. So I don't know if you can read that, but we'll put it up, see if you can read that if you haven't seen this yet. All right, so I have this actually. I'm going counter to what I like doing when I bought that, um, but it was at such a good price that I couldn't resist. So I have I'll put it up here or here, whichever. There's a Blu-ray edition of that comes in like a one Blu-ray case that has all five films in it, right? And it fits on your shelf quite nicely because it doesn't take up a lot of space, right? And then I go ahead and buy this to replace it, right? Um, so look how much more space this is, right? This was going to take up a lot more space than that. So I'm kind of going backwards in my purchases sometimes. So maybe I'll just put this on display somewhere in the basement rather than put it on the shelf. And I'll save some shelf space if I do that. But I'm kind of running out of space to put stuff, um, on top of, like on top of a stereo speaker which I have there, or on top of a bookcase that I have there, like a 4 foot high uh, bookcase or a calyx shelf or whatever. You know what I mean? Running out of space to put things. Um, anyways, but it was such a good price that I had to pick it up. And you haven't watched it. Basically, it's about the tall man, uh, and he goes about raising the dead and changing them into evil dwarfs, right? And then they go around killing people. Anyways, it's a quite a fun franchise. It's not high art, let's put it that way, and the films aren't all that great scripturally, if that is such a word. The scripts aren't all that great, and but they're fun watches if you like cult kind of cinema and horror, right? So um, yeah, so that's everything. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave me a thumbs up. Think about subscribing if you so choose. I would like that, and I'll talk to you in my next video. All right, you have a great day, and bye for now.